Hello guys, how are you? My name is Marcus Magiolo. I'm an author and also an animal behaviorist. And today I'm gonna do a special video talking about a little bit of immigration. And for those who don't know me, I am originally from Brazil and I live in the United States since the year 2012. So I'm recording this video in 2024. So I am living in US for more than 12 years at that point. And I'm already an American citizen. I love the US. I had a lot of work opportunities and life opportunities here in this country. I don't have any plans to go back to Brazil. And today I'm gonna talk a little bit about 5 challenges for anybody who decides to live in a different country. And honestly, moving from Brazil to the United States, it's not that different, and let me explain that. I bet it would be much more difficult to adjust if I was moving from Brazil to a country in the Middle East or to China or to countries or Japan, countries where in overall speaking, culturally we are so different. But Brazil and US, they are kind of similar. Even the routine, they're very similar. You wake up in the morning, you go for work, you work the whole day, you pay some bills. If you have money in the weekend, you go to walk in a park or you go to the beach or you go to a restaurant, and once a year you travel if you can. So life is not that different from Brazil and from US. But there is some barriers, and I'm gonna try to be a little bit more talking in general, the challenges that I see when you leave a country to move to another country. So let's start. The first thing that I will say that is hard is what I will call cultural differences. And those differences, I will say, like in Brazil, we are more open for conversations and physical touch and things like that. So when you see somebody, we hug each other a lot. We give kisses on the cheek a lot. And in US, no. In US is a little bit more private space. Don't invade my private space. So you're gonna be introduced to a girl, to a woman. In Brazil, you go straight and give her 2 kisses on the cheek. In some parts of Brazil, you give 3 kisses on the cheek. In US, it's just you shake the hands. And even inside the family, I remember I have my godfather and he used to give me a kiss on my cheek, even after old age, So like, it was not something that it will happen just when I was a boy. And I'm from Italian family, so it was very normal for even the men to kiss each other in the cheeks. In US, that's not acceptable at all. So even with friends, it's a little bit more distant, that physical relationship you have with your friends in US. The sense of time is another thing that is different. Brazilians are much more flexible with time. So when you say somebody, okay, I meet you at 8, you're not gonna be there at 8, you're gonna be there probably like almost 9. Americans are more straightforward with time. I'll be honest, I was always a person that liked to be on time. So moving to US at that point was a good thing for me, but Brazilians, they are much more flexible on that. The second thing that I will put here that is a challenge for everybody moving to a different country, it is climate variations, so the weather. And that's very important, and a few weeks ago I did another video talking about Brazilians adapting to the cold, and it's so funny because everybody that I know that lives in a place that is warm says, oh my God, I would love to live in a place that is cold. And everybody I talk that lives in a cold place say, oh my God, I would love to live in a warm place. So climate variations, they can be very tricky because in Brazil it's very hot. Like 90% of the Brazilian territory, it's summer the whole year. And winter for Brazilians are 30 degrees Fahrenheit, or 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But 30 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit in US, it's not winter at all. It's just in some parts of the country, it's just another day. So like when Brazilians move to US or move to countries like Canada or countries in the north of Europe, and they start seeing temperatures where it's minus 15, minus 20, they freak out. And I know a lot of Brazilians who moved to north of US, and after 2-3 years, they moved to Florida or California, where it's warm, or even Texas. There's a bunch of Brazilians now moving to Austin. So like, climate variations is something you have to adjust. I live in Florida, so for me, I think was the best decision I made moving to Florida, because the weather in Florida is pretty similar with the weather in Brazil, except the hurricanes, because we don't have hurricanes in Brazil. But I've been in north of US in the winter, and man, I've been in temperatures where it was like minus 18, minus 12 with snow and everybody locked in the house, not being able to go outside. So climate variations is something that is very hard to adapt when you move to another country. The third thing I think is a challenge when you move to another country is the language barrier, and that's hard. And not even to US. And English is not the worst language to adjust, because even in Brazil, we have a lot of English influence. Like we watch movies in English, so subtitle. We play video games in English, subtitle. So there is English outside. You go outside and you go to stores and restaurants, and there's words in English everywhere. But when you get in the level where you need to have a conversation in a different language, even being English, it's a challenge. And I see that as a good opportunity for you to learn a different language. When I moved to US, I'm not ashamed to say, in 2012, I was not even able to read a restaurant menu. I was not. My worst nightmare will be to go to a restaurant and the menu has no picture. I think if you know how to expose yourself, you're gonna learn the language. I think the worst thing an immigrant can do is just live isolated in a Brazilian community in US and not having American friends, or not going to places where nobody speaks Portuguese. Because if you don't do that, you're never gonna learn the language. So it is a barrier, but you need to be able to go forward and put this behind you. The fourth thing I think is a challenge when you move to a different country, of course, is the food culture. And food in US, it's so different than food in Brazil. And honestly, I've said that in the other video I did, and I'm gonna say again, food in US is not that good. I'm sorry guys, but if you go to South America, not just Brazil, if you go to a lot of countries, most part of the countries in South America, most part of the countries in Europe, the food in US is not good. Everything here is processed, everything here is already prepared, everything here is fast food. We don't have in US pretty much the culture anymore of cooking and spending time on the kitchen. And in Brazil, the food is much more fresh, the fruits are much more fresh, and it's hard to adapt. I'm not gonna lie to you, I had to learn to cook. When I moved to US, I was not good in the kitchen. I was not, because in Brazil, it's easy. The food is not expensive, and you don't have all that fast food exposed to you all the time like in US. So it was hard to adjust, and I had to learn how to cook, because now I can go to a grocery store and buy rice and beans, not the rice and beans that you put in the microwave. No, real rice and real beans, and learn how to do it, and meat and salad and things like that, and fruits. But it's difficult. And the fifth and last thing that I think is very hard to adjust when you move to another country is the workplace environment. This is very different. This is like working in a company in Brazil and working in a company in US is completely different. So I think there is two different things here we can talk about that. First is the environment between you and your co-workers. I think in US is much more competitive. I think in US people are always more stressed. And I think in US, except or not me saying that, people can be much more tricky than in Brazil. You can trust a little bit more your Brazilian co-workers than you can trust your American co-workers. It's too competitive. It's like, and the feeling that I have is the person that works with you, if necessary, he's gonna go over your head to achieve what he wants. So it's very competitive. And the other thing is regarding benefits. So we don't have too many benefits working in US. I think the best benefit working in US is the salary. That's the big thing. and it's the only thing you have. So like, you make much more money in US than Brazil, like much more, trust me. When people complain about the minimum wage, like $15, $16 an hour, well, in Brazil is $1 an hour, the minimum wage. So like, it's much more money, and that's why immigrants come here and work so hard, because they're making, in their perspective, a lot of money. But in Brazil, we have a little bit other benefits, like vacations. After a year working in the company, you have 30 days of vacation, and in US, it's just 5 days. In US, like after 2 years working in the company, you're gonna have 10 days. And in Brazil, it's like 30 days. If a woman gets pregnant and once she needs to have the baby, she stay home for 5 months. And in US, it's like 4 weeks. So 4 weeks and you need to go back to work. I don't care if your baby is a month old, you need to work or you're gonna lose your job. So those are the little differences. So that's it, guys. This is my little list of the 5 more difficult things to adjust to a different country. Of course, I love US. I will never leave this country. I love living here. And that's it. Thank you very much. Bye.